Yeah, I think this should be good. So this is coming from a Catalan opening here. Well, he kind of deviates from the main Catalan, which goes d5 and then take here with bishop e7. This is more of a King's Indian setup. So King's Indian, and this is called the Panno variation, where he plays the knight to c6. Here I think the knight is a bit misplaced on a5. So already I'm looking at ways to just winning the knight. But I think his idea is to play b6, knight b7, and maybe knight c5 if he gets time. But I think the knight is going to get stuck here, and I'm going to be able to play b4, just keeping control of the c5 square. But I need to defend this pawn first, and I have to be a bit careful. If I play b3, then maybe he can do. Well, this won't work directly because of queen. I think it might work actually. This knight takes right away, and the bishop comes alive. And if I can take back the bishop, I'll be fine with that. But if the bishop gets to stay on the board, I think it's quite good for black. So I need to be a bit careful here. So queen a4 is an option, just to kind of force him to deal with the knight. So let's look at b6. b4 is still a bit premature, I think, because the knight comes back and I have to deal with this. Maybe bishop b2 actually is not too bad. But he still has some ideas of taking here, potentially. Then if I take his knight, the knight can maybe come back and attack my queen somehow. I think I should just play a bit more simpler, because he's not really rushing anything here on the queen side. The only thing is, if queen c2, he might want to play c6. But then the d pawn can become quite weak, potentially. I can also just play e4, try to keep everything together. I think queen c2 is probably the most natural move. Even a move like knight a3, it's probably not so bad. Yeah, I don't want to risk anything on the long diagonal here. It's not worth. The queen c2, bishop f5 might come, hitting my queen. So for that reason, maybe knight a3 is better. At the same time, knight d2 develops a piece, defends a pawn, and supports e4. Especially since I think I may want to have my bishop on b2 in this variation. But as soon as I play b3, there's going to be tactics along the diagonal, like knight takes d5. Maybe I need to play knight c3 just to cover the diagonal, queen c2 or something, and then play b3. So queen a4, I think he has to play b6. He can play c6 as well, actually. But then I got bishop d2, it looks pretty good. Yeah. So b6. I can still play bishop d2 actually, threatening to just take the knight. So I'm forcing him to come back with the knight, and then I think bishop c3 would be quite good. Just neutralizing this bishop on g7. Yeah, I think I quite like that actually. The other option is queen d3. Yeah, c6 doesn't work, I realize now, because of b4. Maybe knight takes, but I can probably just take and then take his knight, and I will have 2 pieces for my rook. And he will waste a lot of tempo. So queen d3. There's still bishop f5. I don't quite have time. So maybe I'll just go for queen a4, rook e1, and just try to play e4 as soon as I can. Knight c3 will support e4 as well as blocking block on the diagonal here. So queen a4, even though it's not a very natural square for the queen, I think makes some sense on this line. There's some things to consider though. If the knight can somehow jump to c5, the queen will be a bit inconvenienced. But I'm almost going to have tempo with queen c2. Maybe I can get d4 and then be fine there. So yeah, I think queen a4 is okay. This is about as much time as I should spend on the move here. Because time control is deceptively short actually. 30 minutes can go quite quickly. And you don't want to get down on the increments, even though you have 30 seconds each move. It's unnecessary. That's often how most games are decided. That time scramble. Trying to avoid that, trying to play solid. I should be favored here. So I'm going to try to keep the initiative, not just sort of wait for him to make a mistake, but try to pressure a bit and keep everything solid. But not be afraid to go on the offense. So we're playing in the Lonewolf League. Shoutouts to Lichess4545, really well organized leagues. They have lots of different competitions you can enter. Biggest one is probably the team league. We play 10 against 10, and you play on a certain board. So I played on board 1 for my team, where I play against around like 2300 average probably. Classical, which is not comparable to feeder rating, but it's still a decent level. So I'm getting some good practice games there. I played against a feeder master last season, so definitely a good challenge. So I think if you play c6, let's calculate what happens after d4. I can also play bishop d2, which is the safer line. Okay, he went for c5. But doesn't that mean that his pawn structure is going to be shattered now? I still got to be careful though with this diagonal, like I said. So I was looking at bishop d2, but this can come quite quickly. So if he plays that right away, that doesn't work because I get tempo on the queen. Now I'll be able to come back here. So bishop d2, he has to play b6, and it's going to take the knight. Once again, if he takes, I can just come back. So losing a pawn, but I'm winning a piece, of course. So he takes back, and then I can just play knight c3. I think just defending against this threat. I don't need to hurry getting this pawn back. The knight is well placed here anyway, because knight b5 might be an option. So yeah, I think bishop d2 is simple enough. I don't really see what he can do. Yeah, I think I'm happy to just shadow the pawn structure. He does get some play on the b file, but I don't think it's quite worth it. So let's start. Well, there's one line to check as well. Bishop d2, b6 takes bishop d7. Maybe I can just take on b6 then. Hoping to trade queens. That should be good enough. So let's go with bishop d2. Get some light in here. Yeah, there's b6. So I can either take the knight, or I can go for bishop c3. The knight is not that dangerous on b7. It's gonna take a while before it can actually do something, because it's blocked behind the pawn chain here on d6 and b5. So maybe it's not worth giving up my dark square bishop here, because I'm getting quite weak on the dark squares after all. The question is if I can get in like knight c3, e4, e5. Then I can start to regain control, and I get the e file. And should I could play if this guy can come out. But if I just play bishop c3, then after bishop d7, it's not really clear what I've gained. It's a bit awkward, you know. So yeah, I don't like it. I should be consistent, just follow through with my plan, I think. So knight c3 next, or knight d2. I'm not sure which one's the best here. I think I like the idea of just blocking the diagonal for now. He's probably going to play rook b8. Well, there's an idea of playing knight d2 and knight b3 and just grabbing this pawn. Because this is potentially really hard for black to defend, actually. So let's say knight d2. It doesn't make sense to sack here, because I'm happy to trade 2 pieces for the rook. So knight d2, bishop d7, queen a3. Let's say rook b8. Knight b3. It's not threatening anything because he'll be able to grab the pawn with rook. But if I can get a knight in here, it'll be quite uncomfortable for him. So knight takes, rook takes, right here. Queen somewhere. But he probably just chop it off with the bishop. So knight d2, rook b8. Maybe just rook b. But the bishop here is annoying. It's really annoying. So maybe after knight d2, if bishop f5, I can play rook e1, preparing e4. And if rook b8, I think he's going to play bishop d7. So after queen a3, rook b8. It is a bit awkward. I think I will have to play a rook e1 first, probably. Maybe there's merit in playing knight c3 first and then the other knight to d2 and then to b3. Just keeping everything defended. And yeah, I'm able to support the knight jumping in here and supporting the e4 push as well, so it is a bit slow though. Yeah, I think you can strike back in the center if I play too slowly with this kind of plans, because it's going to take a lot of moves to grab a pawn. So I think I should just play a bit more safe here. Queen here doesn't really do anything, this bishop here, and yeah, scratch that. Let's play knight c3. I'm realizing I'm spending a bit too much time on sort of obvious moves here. But now I at least know about this plan here and his kind of counter resources. But these are things I should figure out on my opponent's time. So rook b8. I could play queen c2. So giving up my plan for now. Because rook b1 doesn't work, because bishop f5 and I'm not in time to stop it. So I think I more or less have to play on there. So queen a3 is a little bit scary, but because I'm boxing in my queen, but he can't really attack it in any way that I see. Slow plan is queen a3, knight d2, knight b3, and then just take the pawn. Or I can come back and play for this second plan here, which looks a bit... It looks a lot safer, but I'm giving him like play for nothing here on the queen side. Queen e3, rook b8, knight d2. Queen b6 maybe. But then I can actually play rook b1 because I have plenty of pieces covering e4. Okay, let's stick with this plan here. Its plan is simply to take this pawn with this maneuver, which I don't know. It's a bit slow, but I think the position is quiet enough to warrant it. Rook b8. It's not threatening anything at the moment, so I'm free to play knight e2, which both covers against bishop f5 and contributes to my plan here of taking the pawn. You can place a rook on b4. So I'd have to worry about protecting c4 as well. Yeah, I think he can slow me down enough that my plan is not going to work. Once he has a rook on b4, then maybe he can play a4 as well. So we'll have two pieces defending a4. So I'm going to need 3 attackers, which it's not going to be easy to source. Maybe I need the bishop helping out somehow. It's probably how I need to cover c4 as well. So rook e1, e4, bishop f1. So hopefully he'll have to spend all of his time just defending against my threat here on the queen side. But he can also just double up rook b4, queen b8. I'll have to defend quite passively with the rook. So yeah, it's double edge here, this position. Takes away any bishop f5 possibilities. It would take a long time for him to get a knight to d4. So perhaps it's not something I want to worry about now. Knight here. h3 is generally a useful move. So I want to prevent this idea. Because right now it's basically the only move to open up his bishop. He can play bishop, knight h5 as well, but the knight is not doing that much. And if he wants to play f5, then he's creating quite a lot of weaknesses here from his king. So let's see, I think he's going to play rook b4. And I probably just want to relieve the tension of b3. If I leave him too much time, he's just going to double up. And I'll become quite passive on the queen side. So rook before b3. If we just play something like queen b8, maybe we take. Yeah, that's fun. He'll most likely take. And I should probably take with the rook. So I can end up with a pawn on b3, supporting my c pawn. It is a backward pawn, but the a pawn is also a target. And the knights will come in handy fighting on this flank. So I don't want to lock it down too much. What else can you try? e6. Then I'm probably happy just to take it. Play rook d1. Start attacking the weak d6 pawn. It's going to be hard for him to get d5 in. And I'm happy to open this long diagonal. There we go, rook b4. So shall we just slam in b3? Yeah, I'm not afraid of any knight moves. I can just move my knight or take back. So yeah, let's just play b3. I need to catch up in time. Takes, rook takes. Maybe he'll go queen b6, but then I get a chance to double as well. And he can create a Lichess cannon if he wants. But I think we're mostly just going to swap off all the pieces there. I could also just take with the pawn. There are some ideas for trapping his rook as well after knight b5 and stuff. Takes. If a takes. The rook is kind of silly here on b1. It's very passive. I wish it was on a1. At the same time, it's this diagonal which makes me uncomfortable along the a file. So maybe it's not so bad to just trade off some pieces. I wouldn't mind going into an endgame. Even though he has kind of Benko style pressure, but the a pawn helps a lot. If he had both the a file and the b file, I would not go into any kind of queenless endgame. He's probably looking at some tactics, some discovered attacks here. But I don't think I have much to worry about. Knight takes, I can just take with knights. Knight g4, I can probably just take this. I think we're Gucci. d6. Should be fun. Right. I could kick the knight with knight a2, but again it's so slow and the rook is not that worst place here. So let's just take. See what happens. I am creating a threat here now. So if rook takes, question is how I take back. Don't really want to take with the queen because the queen does a good job pressuring a2 at the moment. Same time the queen defends c3, which might be important. Is this pawn going to be a target at some point? How valuable is it to take back with the pawn? I like the fact that I have pressure here. And if I play rook a1, I can always put the rook on a2 as well. Just step out of the long diagonal. And as long as the queen defends the rook, any kind of knight sacrifices, I'm happy to just trade the two pieces for my rook. Plus I might be able to play b4, so yeah, I think taking with the pawn is the right way to go here. So he has to deal with this immediately. Again, he can try this, but maybe just knight d5. Knight b5, a6, I can just take it. Bishop takes, I don't know, I might be shattering my pawn structure a bit too much there. There's also just knight e4. But I gotta watch for f5 then. I got knight g5, so it's fine. I can either come back here or move into e6. So that should be okay as well. I think it's quite even. Black probably has the long-term advantage since he has the bishop pair and he has control of the dark squares. But I got pressure on the a file. I got more space, and the knights are tricky, which might come into play when the time scramble hits. We shall see. Right, queen c7. So putting it on a square where it can be attacked with tempo. For now, I think rook a1 makes sense. Still not too worried about this diagonal. Maybe I should be actually. No, because now I can. I suppose I should be worried about this now. Rook c1 would kind of make sense as well to support b4. So what happens here? It is a bit uncomfortable, like unnecessarily uncomfortable. Maybe a move like 94 would make sense. Or e4. Well, this is kind of the only chance I have to play b4 because the rook is going to come in. So Maybe it's time to play b4 here. He's getting rook b8 with tempo though. And he's getting some pressure on the c pawn. It might be important to get rid of this pawn for the endgame. This takes, queen takes, rook b8. Almost certainly. And the queen. Let's go back to this awkward square again. There's also queen a6, the idea of blocking the pawn and preparing knight b5. Let's go with that. Does it make sense though? Rook b8 is going to come. Rook a1, and he can still move his knight, and I have the same problem with the long diagonal. Knight a2, b4 as well. If I can jump into c6, that'll be good. To protect the pass pawn on c6. I'll protect all the bishop in this. It's knight a2 to move. It looks a bit strange. e4, knight here. It's just gonna sit here. b4 takes with b8. Rook a1 is a bit uncomfortable. I guess rook a1, queen c1 is okay. But he's getting some play here. I really should be playing on the king side, looking at how my pawns are pointing, but I don't have that many pieces there. So knight a2, rook b8, b4 takes, knight takes. Yeah, maybe it's okay. Queen c5 though. Yeah. That's the problem. I'm giving him the c5 square. I guess we just play like our normal plan here. e4, f4, queen c1, queen c2. So queen c1 is probably the safest bet. I can just keep this knight here defending the pawn. Yeah, okay, it's kind of sad move to make, but I think it's the right way. I shouldn't be playing on the queen side here. I should just keep it locked down. He's gonna try to play here. It's very clear that he's gonna play on the queen side. And if I just put my queen on c2 and I have the knight on d2, I think it's gonna be really hard for him to break through. He's gonna have to use his pawn as well, but I can potentially just leave my knight here. He's gonna have to give up his strong bishop if he wants to take the knight. Let's get Joshua. Let's see. Yeah, I think he's played the opening quite well actually. It's probably the wrong idea to go for this queen a4, bishop takes a5 stuff. So rook b8 as expected, and let's just continue with queen c2, just double defending this pawn. So if he plays bishop f5, I'm happy with that. I want to play e4, f4 anyway. So e4, f4, maybe king h1, or I can play h3, king h2. Even safer. And then just push out here. H3 is probably good, because if I end up pushing here and his rook gets down somehow, I'm going to be weak on the back rank if I don't have a flight square for my king. And it should be safe as long as I keep my bishop here. H3, king h2, I'm going to have two pieces defending h3. He's going to try to double up on the b file. a5, a4 probably. But I think it's good that I've traded one pair of rooks as well. If there was double rooks here on the b file, it might have been a bit trickier, or one rook on the a file supporting the pawn. I think it'd be harder to defend. Okay, so yeah, he's going to double up. As you expected, but it's not really going to do much once I have the knight here. I might want to keep my rook on the f file if the f pawn is going to be pushed, but first I will prepare with h3, king h2, taking out the possibility of him playing knight g4 as well. I think that makes sense. And before he gets the chance to play queen c8, I want to be able to respond to that with king h2, because I don't want to play h4 and give him the g4 square. And I don't want to allow, before h2 was played, I don't want to allow bishop h3 as well to trade my bishop here. Okay. It's fine, that's where I want to put my king anyway. So if he goes for e6, I think I can just take and play on the d6 pawn. And I'll get the d5 square as well to use. So my plan here is just to play e4, f4, e5, and eventually crash through on the king side. Okay, should I be worried about h4? I don't think it's too bad. He's also weakening his own king side, which is where I'm gonna be attacking. And he will make eventual f5 push stronger. So I think it's e4. If h4 I can play g4, I can just keep it like it is as well, take back with the pawn and get the f-file. I think now it's time for e4. So the knight can't really get to d4 in a good way that I can see. So yeah, let's keep going with e4. I'll try to catch up with it in time. I'm not doing a very good job at. He might throw in bishop h6 just to take on d2, but he doesn't even have his queen here ready to take the b pawn. What I am doing though is giving him a nice square for his bishop. Since I've moved out of this diagonal, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I'm hoping. Right, so I guess he wants to put his bishop here. Or does he want to counter f4 with g5? That looks pretty out there. I think we'll just continue with f4. I guess he wants to stop this in one move, so yeah, let's just go with f4. May want to drop back with my knight on f3, especially if I'm feeling safe with this pawn. At least forcing his queen off this good diagonal here. Ooh, okay. So if I take, I'm guessing he's going to take with the bishop. If f5 takes, he can't take with the bishop. f5, maybe g5. I guess awfully blocked. Okay, let's just play knight f3. So take, bishop takes, and then knight f3 with tempo on the bishop. If he goes back, can I play e5 then? Probably not, but I think I should take. Followed by knight f3. If he takes with the pawn, I think it's basically giving me a one endgame. So I can just try to focus on exchanging everything. We have some tactics on the f-file. Alright. Yeah, knight f3 makes perfect sense, I think. H4 takes. It's still, this pawn is going to be too dangerous, I think. But let's see. H4. No, just knight takes. It's fine. If he comes back, then I could switch my attention to the e file and play for e5. Or I can play h4 and try to clamp down on g5. But it allows the knight to come in here, which I shouldn't allow. Okay, goes back. So first of all, does this work right away? It's interesting because it allows the knight to come in here as well. Maybe I should play it as a pawn sacrifice. E5, if bishop takes, knight takes, pawn takes, and this pawn is dangerous, so I think that's probably worth a pawn just to get rid of this pawn. Yeah, I think I go with the pawn sack now. It looks pretty strong and hard to deal with for black here. When his knight is offside, the rook is not really participating in the king side, so whereas all my pieces are coming in, pretty much. I also give this square for the bishop, perhaps can join the attack on the king. So I think e5. That makes sense. Knight comes in, I can still play knight e4. It's queen d1. No, probably knight here, because this might be a threat as well. Can he put more pressure on this knight though? But he can take it and take here, that's might be what he's thinking. Well, let's go. Knight here. SA takes, queen takes. If rook takes, I can take here, and this looks really good for me. So maybe he would go bishop takes, queen takes, and take here to pawn. But then I have knight takes, which looks pretty good. Yeah, I think the knight should come here. He takes. How about knight h4? Simply want to take the bishop. So my knight is free to apply pressure here. So I am walking into a pin, but I think it's okay. Right, so he's leaving the tension here. Does he want to just grab his pawn? Let's see what he's going to do. The knight is still kind of out of the game, so if he takes, I got knight takes, and I've got some pressure on f7 as well. Right. Well, I cannot allow him to play moves like f5, so I think we should just take. But what if he plays rook e7? Rook takes f7, rook takes, knight takes, king takes. D6 is interesting as well, taking away this opportunity. So knight takes rook e7. Should we just go YOLO here, but this is kind of a resource to win the pawn endgame. This pawn is not going to last too long. But he does have two things to worry about, both the pawn, queening, and pressure on the king's side. The point is if he plays f5, then we have this check, and then we can pick up the pawn. So yeah, let's go. It's a bit crazy, but I don't know if it works out. I think it pays to play aggressive in these situations. And I'm threatening to take here and activate this battery here on the rook. I think taking on b3 is too greedy now. He's also losing defense of the f7 pawn. If you play something like queen e6. F6. Okay. As if I take, he has this. Go back here, I get forked. So d7. Rook takes. So I'm guessing queen e3 is the move. Yeah, protecting the pawn. Fine. There's also queen here. It's unclear what I'm getting. So we'll come back here. I am attacking this pawn twice. You can't defend it easily. And he has to worry about this pawn. But it seems like it's going to be hard to create some pressure now on the f-file, so maybe I'll switch my rook to d1 instead. Trying to queen this pawn maybe. If his queen moves, I might be able to grab c5. Trying to keep his bishop from entering the play here. Queen e8, I think I can just take this pawn. Queen b8 might be a good move. But you can still just take your pawn. 97, okay. So now I can keep attacking this pawn here. To throw the knight in. Knight is bishop a6. Now this rook takes, right? I mean, this is a nice thing. Yeah, I think knight here makes sense. If bishop h6, I can just take on b7. And he has to deal with this pawn as well. I might even choose to not take the rook and just put the bishop here. See, he might give this pawn up and play, I don't know, rook b6. But then maybe bishop here. It's starting to look quite dangerous. Yeah, I think it's a good practical decision to go for the pawn sack. Trying to play a bit more dynamic. Go beyond material. That's the book I'm reading. It's called. Does he have any shocker here? Rook b6. I mean, knight takes is probably easiest. Just defending the pawn. And it's quite uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm just going to take this. And follow up with bishop d5. Now I can start pressuring the g6 pawn as well. Maybe he'll go king h7. I could come back. Yeah. Put my rook on f7 instead. Queen d3 is a sneaky move as well. It's threatening to take here and to come in with the queen. And d5, which might be even more threatening than bishop d5. I like this option as well, just having the option. But after king h8, I can just repeat. Yeah, bishop would be good here, for sure. Can also invade with my queen this way. Or he doesn't really have any counterplays, so I can take my time. Don't want to cash in too early. Make sure I don't fall for any counterplay. So king h7. I guess we just go back and play with f7. Or bishop d5. You still can't take this because of knight f7 check again. See, he can't hide on g8 because of bishop d5, and he can't hide on h8 because of knight f7. He's trying to get some counterplay. But he's leaving the defense of the knight. So bishop here, if he takes, I mean, at least I win a piece, right? Takes king h7. That's good. Probably gonna take. I'm trying to get some checks done here. Could take and drop back to the knight. Probably just take and come forward. This check. I can just hide on g1. He doesn't have time to get everything on the second rank. Yes, I shouldn't trade rooks, I should just step back with my king. So after it takes, we go queen g5 or something. There's also takes king here and take here. So if he takes my queen, I take his queen. And I'm off a piece. Yeah. I don't see any in between moves. Yes, with the queen. Because he needs to keep defending his rook as well. Queen b4. If he moves his king, probably go for the check. He has to come back. Then rook f7. Looks pretty decisive. Yeah, very hard for black to play. If it takes, take here. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back. I'm trying to save some time here. It's a rook f7, yeah. What happens here? The bishop can come back, worst case. It's got queen d3 stuff. No, I don't. I need to watch out for repetcher, actually. Maybe I should start with queen e4. Yeah, let's do that. Knight f6, I think rook takes is winning. Bishop takes, queen takes here. And he has to give up some material. And this should be too slow. Because I take and there's a check, but the king comes back. That's why I want to keep my rook on the first rank for a while, just to keep my king defended. Until I move my queen, because then my bishop can come back to defend instead. And if you play something like queen e8 to defend, then I got bishop f7. This takes. I should do it. If rook takes, there's this nasty knight fork again. Knight f8, I can just play d7, I guess. Or rook takes f8. But then I have to be careful about letting this queen come in here. Yeah, maybe that was the best move. I mean, d2 is nasty because it's threatening queen and check. I don't see a good way to defend against that, so I'm just gonna play it. I am letting his rook come into play, but I think it's perfect here. Because he can't stop the knight from coming here. And if the knight takes, we... Oh, did I miscalculate this? Knight e6. Let's try rook f7. Shit. Knight f6 now. Knight f6, queen. Ah, the queen is still defending as well. Try knight a6 maybe. Knight f6, rook takes, and I have nothing. I have nothing. I need to. Well, knight f6, queen takes g6, of course, yeah. But then he has knight g4. Shit. I have to just retreat with the queen, I think. Knight f6, rook takes, rook takes. Knight f7. Doesn't do much. Okay. I can pin the knight. Pin the knight and get the rook out of the game. That must be good, threatening to take on g6. So knight is pinned, and if knight f6 anyway, he loses a piece because the queen is defended. Rook takes, queen takes, and I don't think he has anything immediate. So knight f6, I just take his queen. He has to give it up, I think, the rook. Oh, he timed out. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright. Is he gone?